I'm letting them know I'm going to be late.
All right, Bourbon and BaaS is back. And first things first, we got to get our intro playing. Here we go. And today we have a special guest, a fill-in Phil, if you will. Phil is not able to be here today. The first guest in the Bourbon and BaaS series. So the one and only Stacy Bishop.
Thank you.
Before we get into it.
So much.
Am
I skipping ahead? I'm skipping ahead.
Cheers.
Cheers.
But before we get too far into it, I got to do one more thing.
See ya, Phil. Miss you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me.
Well, I kind of bullied myself a little bit into this. Let's be clear for everyone. And I did it in not even a self-serving fashion, but a fashion that serves my handsome husband here that you're going to see on the screen. You're used to seeing him. You're going to see more of him because in the background, you might notice that the man wrote a book called Know Your Agent. And not just you. You had help from Tony.
Tony Del Fiero, yes.
Yeah, Tony Del Fiero, and even some add-in info from your own agent, which I'm one of your agents, which I'm constantly at war with for your attention. Let's just call this dude out, Atlas. If you can hear me, I don't know. He probably is busy right now. I think you and I had this discussion last week, Steve, that we don't even have to worry about scrolling social media mindlessly. We have to watch the way in which we interact with agents and AI around our house and at all hours.
Or there may have been someone on the dock this weekend. Instead of being in the water, they were on the dock talking to their bot. Not pointing fingers, but
I mean, were they pushing the work along? Were they ideating?
I'm sure they were. I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, the tokens are cheaper on the weekend. Is what I hear.
I would be shocked and appalled to know if we put it all together, what we spend on AI around the Bishop household, and for a lot of different use cases and a lot of different reasons. We were fairly early adopters of AI, and it's fair to say I think we've pushed the envelope. I wouldn't consider myself expert area yet. We're up there. We're doing some good work. But that does bring me back to this book. And I know you didn't exactly want me to bring this into the equation, but I have to admit, you had been writing this for months and months and months and months, getting up early, staying up late, talking to Atlas about a blurb he might want to introduce into the book. So Atlas is even credited here before I was credited in the book, if that just tells you guys anything. But you spent so much time on this, and I had read outlines and I had read sample chapters. It wasn't until recently, knowing that you have a Finovate Fall book signing coming up in NYC next month, that I thought, I should probably dig in and read this. And I bullied myself onto this discussion because there were so many pieces and parts that were applicable to BaaS. And if you don't mind, I want to just chat with you about a few of those and then see if we can bring those into the current world and the current environment.
Do we want to talk at all about bourbon? I mean, the introduction.
Oh.
The introduction, or the book talks about this podcast, specifically this show. And I think I may have gone into it with Phil, but after our first episode, I was like, we need a logo. And so I would have the kids at the playground and they were off running around. And so I said, I have a podcast, Bourbon and BaaS, I need a logo. And it came back. And what came back was a glass of bourbon and a sheep. And so I laughed because when I said BaaS, banking as a service, it heard BaaS. And so it that's why we have the sheep. That's why it's such a fundamental part of our logo today. It's a constant reminder that AI and like context is everything. And unless you understand that context, and so much of that we talk about in the, like we'll talk about here, we'll talk about in the book. The context matters, whether it's BaaS banking, context matters with bourbon. It's all so vital to your success with AI.
Bourbon is vital to your success with AI.
That's just
That's
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
that's what I
My
heard.
best thinking, yes. It's
Can you imagine? Oh, I've never asked an AI agent to act like it had been imbibing, but that would be hilarious. That's my challenge. I want you to ask Atlas for some
that
feedback after he's
that
a few of these in.
the Comedy Central show Drunk History, but then it's like Drunk AI, and just see
Love
where it
it.
goes. It starts off good, but
Love
as you it could be a safety protocol to keep you from maybe using AI on the dock. Like
that.
at some point, like,
Ooh, wow, bring it back to that. Well, I'm going to bring it back to this because as I've been reading this, and I'll make it through the whole thing. I'm actually super proud for you, what you've created here and of you. But you start off one of the early stories in the book after you talk about the Bourbon and BaaS logo, the Bourbon and BaaS, I almost said logo, is you do cite an early institution that self-disclosed the unintended, unexpected use of an employee using AI in an untoward fashion, where customer and PII, that data found its way into these broad open models. And that's a real thing. This was cited. This was just recently, really, right? May 2026. I know you,
a couple months ago. Yes.
You rewrote that section of the book when this came out. I still remember where we were whenever you read this and thought, I got to put that in the book. But this is a real thing that people are now going to be faced with if you're in the banking space, and especially in embedded. I want to take that example and just extend it out to what you were chatting about in the book about the enhanced due diligence process for many BaaS organizations. And it's involved in and of itself. You'd mentioned there are 115 questions for one of the FIs that you helped stand up their banking as a service vertical. And none of those 115 questions answer what happens whenever our third-party vendors begin to use AI post TPRM process. What if it's mislabeled or miscategorized in release notes and it doesn't flag an institution to reconsider or reconnect with this particular AI's use case? What if our employees are using it? And I know this is likely supposed to be you reading from the book, but here you go. I'm gonna do this on your part. This is my reading for you here. So let me take you back. Let me take you back months and months ago. But you said walk that scenario through the diligence frame, and in this case, you're talking about a typical due diligence frame. You say the vendor question is hard to answer if there isn't a vendor relationship. Speaking of these AI solutions, these AI use cases, these AI frameworks and bots, the contract question is hard to answer if there isn't a contract. The control attestation question is hard to answer if the AI in use has no obligations to the institution. And you go on a little bit in that vein, and I found myself going, wow, I hadn't thought about that. There hasn't traditionally been this view or use of AI as a thing we need to regulate and that we need to incorporate in these policies. Now, don't get me wrong, Steve, we hear a lot about AI being used in these solutions that provide TPRM. We hear a lot about AI use cases in TPRM, in AML and BSA, in vendor management and relationships. We just don't hear anything about AI being now the subject of those use cases. And you challenge in the book and say, we should be thinking in terms of moving from TPRM to, would you like to fill in?
APRM.
Tell tell
All
us
party,
tell
yeah,
us a
third
little bit about that.
parties. And so third party risk management is no longer enough. You have to have all parties that
Yeah.
you're looking at. And it's the first thing is taking inventory. Like, just like your due diligence, your job, your goal is to take inventory of what that vendor, what that partner they currently have. So you're aware of it and you understand
Mhm.
it. Something I've been doing with banks I've been working with is giving them a template to send to their core provider that says, please
Mm.
list out all your AI components, all like plans as part of our due diligence and understanding. AI is in financial institutions today, and that the 8K just proved it out. The scary thing is who the banks or credit unions that don't know it's in there, or there's been impact and they're not aware or they're not telling. That was just the first one that was publicly documented. So
Yeah.
AI is there. Your vendors are using it. We've seen FIS and Fiserv. They have Anthropic and ChatGPT, and Jack Henry has Google, and so they've all chosen their AI providers. So you know that it's going into their products. Your
Mhm.
employees, like everyone has their phone and has AI on that. They're using it. But like think about, and I'm going off on a big tangent here, but if you're a teller in a business line, like you're trying to give that world-class customer service and you have a person sitting there that if you just take that quick picture of your terminal, ChatGPT will give you the answer you need. You'll be able to help that customer out even faster. Well, what did you just do? You loaded PII into an LLM. It's out in the wild now. So it's best of intentions, but not a good execution. And like all of these places are just coming at you, and you no longer just accept. I have a contract with my core provider, so I only need due diligence on my core provider. I have to go deeper, and it's also continuous diligence. You can't just do that point in time. If you think about the velocity thing, that like these are changing. Like it seems like every week one of the LLMs leapfrogs the other and gets even further ahead of it, and then like
Yeah.
they'll be great this month, and next month they're like two behind, and it's
Yeah.
changes you point in time is no longer enough. It's continuous and it's not just limited to the third party it was historically. You got to go broader than that.
I know you and I have declared our own AI preferences in our household, and not shocking at all, they're not the same. We prefer different models and different technologies, and you're always telling me about how yours are leapfrogging mine, and it's a fun little rivalry. You mentioned something there, Steve, where you said banks that you work with, you're helping with AI policies. Do you find that a lot of banks do not have an AI policy or an inclusive one? And if they don't,
I
I mean, what's the risk?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely needs to be a policy. It's they may have it under a broader IT data sort of policy. I think they're covered. You need to have like saying, "Oh, we're just going to put the walls up and say no to AI." That is a policy, but you're going to be left behind. You need
Ooh,
to have a smart way to do it. Have a strategy around it. Like,
yeah.
I don't have evidence that says banks don't have AI policies, but I'm confident in saying that most financial institutions lack AI strategy. And it's so new that we're still learning. And you talked about us being early adopters, and we're still learning, and it's
Hmm.
changing so fast. That is something that we're always going to live with. There's never going to be a human that's at the forefront because AI is now evolving on its own. And so there was a moment, I tell this story probably too often, but like I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh crap, I'm so far behind on AI. I got to dig in even deeper. And then a few hours later, I'm on a call. I'm like, I got 5 bots running. I've got multiple machines. I'm probably going to be okay. And that's also how you get to APRN. It's how you
Hmm.
get to continuous due diligence. I, as a human, will never know everything, but I can have my bots and my agents that are out there working on my behalf that are then bringing it to me to say, you need to look at this.
Uh,
It makes, yeah. So go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, no, I was just going to say, and you say working on your behalf, both you and likely institutions, you're talking about
Right.
operationally working on your behalf, going out and executing something that you want to do, a research that you want to dig into, or facilitating. We haven't really done much with transactions. I'm confident that's going to change. It's definitely changing for banks and FIs. So I think that's kind of what you're referencing there is whether people know that this is happening or not. Let's just be clear. This is happening. This is happening. You have to have some sort of a stance. You gave an example there, Steve, where you said some banks' policies may be no AI, which I think you have to be realistic with yourself. But what if a bank's AI policy is, we use Copilot that comes with our Microsoft stack? Anything to say there around it, especially for sponsor banks that are getting into it, they're using AI more effectively. What do we have to think about and know with the default solution, which by all accounts does its job, but AI is much more than a browser extension that shows up in your tech stack.
It's easy to say you're using AI when you really have a better search engine. Instead of going to Google, you're using AI. And Copilot, because Microsoft is in so many banks, it's an easy button, but I haven't seen its performance has lagged behind the others. Microsoft has not rolled out a great product there that I've seen. I'm sure they're working on it. That's just been my experience.
Yeah,
I think the important thing, you can't say there's no AI. You can't sit and wait till the dust settles so you have a clear path that your institution will save with. It's just changing too fast and the world is evolving.
Yeah.
But you also can't have an examiner come in and you're like, we're using AI, and he's like, well, what's it doing? That's where KYA, the framework, making sure you can explain to an examiner, your employees should know what the AI policy is and work within that. You should have the ability to audit what's being used, what's it capable of doing, what's authorized to do, and then what has it done.
Yeah. And let's be clear, at this stage, there's no formal framework. There's no formal guidance. It's every institution is taking accountability with the context that they have with their own institution, their own use cases, and the tech stack. Even if it is Copilot, even if you haven't activated Copilot, to your earlier point, your core vendor likely doing something AI related, and it's being introduced to your solution in that fashion, or your other tech providers. So zooming out, I think the argument that you make within the book and that you've just said here is simply that you need to understand how AI works within the comfort parameters of your institution. You need to formalize that for your team members and examiners alike. And then that's a constantly evolving thing, just like AI. I mean, most of the time I feel like AI and I are best friends. And then there's 2 days a week where I think, oh my gosh, there has been so much that's changed in 3 days that I feel as if I'm behind. And I cannot imagine that bankers are not feeling the same way as well.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh,
Sir?
and I also think about you wouldn't hire an employee, bringing them into your financial institution and say, here's all of our data, here's all of our systems, go crazy. You wouldn't do that with an FTE. So you need to have a plan in place for that digital employee, that agent. Make sure they have what they need to do the job that you're giving them, but also have guardrails around it, just like you would a regular human. So you were going to ask something, and I went off my tangent.
No, I appreciate the tangent. Just one thought, and this is a common one for a bank that's looking at AI and evaluating, similar to a banker that I know you spoke with last week that is finding their team members' way forward with AI and learning about AI. Is there a use case or department where it makes great sense to begin with internally. I mean, I have an opinion on some of this, but I'd love to hear if we agree or not. Probably not. Let's be clear.
I think it goes back to the beginning of this conversation. And I hope we have enough time to get to your opinion before we have to call it a day. No, we will get there. But I think the most important thing is to take inventory of who you are, who your institution is, understand the framework, build that foundation for context that looks at the whole organization, both within and without, and have that true understanding. And from there, you can go different ways, and there's going to be better use cases. But unless you have a context that is built specifically for your institution, you're never going to maximize the capabilities that you can get with AI.
I concur. And that is even more important for sponsor banks because the relationships are extended much further. They are much more complex, and there's a whole slew of additional parties that come into play that truly do, I think, in your scenario and that you've outlined in the book here, make it more important for all institutions, yes, but especially sponsor banks to consider an APRM model and to know that there's some important frameworks that have to be considered. There are people and experts that you sought out in creating this book that have weighed in on what those frameworks can look like and what they should consider as you're evaluating them for your institution. And again, right now, we're all doing the best we can with the information we have available. And I know that you'll advise that with the bankers that you're working with, when we know more, we'll do more. But at present time, you have to do something.
You absolutely do. Yeah, being an ostrich and burying your head in the sand has never been a good strategy, and it's definitely probably not a worse time to do it than now when it comes to AI. So.
All right. With that,
well, Mrs. Bishop, thank you so much for joining and being my fill-in.
My pleasure. Cheers to you, sir. Cheers and congrats on the book. Grab your copy, right?
That's right. It's available on koabook.com, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble. If you have any questions, you can always reach out DM, LinkedIn. And if you want to be a fill-in Phil or join me and Phil, also reach out. And we'll continue this.
I want to join you and Phil sometime.
Okay. We will have. We'll see if we can make that happen. So until next time, thanks for joining.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.